This is going to be a somewhat self-indulgent video, so just be warned if that's not your jam, then you can hop off now. No hard feelings. But if you stay on, be warned. You you know what you're in for. I've given you advance warning. Um, well, I'm back from my somewhat whirlwind uh, vacation, if you want to call it that, my trip to Washington State. Um, and I did, it was fun. I had I mean, mostly had a good time. There were some low points, but mostly it was quite a lot of fun. I was also pleased to meet up with Devout Agnostic, um, who is a subscriber and who comments on my videos and who also comments on my Substack page. So he was not at all what I pictured him as being. Um, Not that and he was quite a bit more impressive than I thought he was going to be, and it wasn't that I expected him to be unimpressive. Uh, don't get me wrong, um, but he exceeded my expectations as far as what the kind of life that he's living, what the kind of stuff that he's up to, and what he's trying to do. I'm not going to be specific about anything because I don't know what's it's cool to reveal about him. I asked if I did ask his permission. I did ask if it was okay if I refer to him in a video, and he said it was okay. So, in any case, um, it was grand meeting up with him in his lovely hometown. Uh, Very lovely, very quirky, uh, very Washington-esque, Washington State-esque hometown. Um, I did a lot of things. I saw Kurt Cobain's hometown. I saw the Olympia or the Olympic National Forest, Olympic or Olympia. Um, the beautiful nature that that area of the country has in store. I'd never been to the Pacific Northwest before, as I've said previously, and there was something that really intrigued me about the notion of going as far as I could in the continental United States uh, and still be in the same country, because I'm on the East Coast in the southern region, very close to the Atlantic Ocean. So it was it was unexpectedly um, an unexpectedly profound experience to wander out onto the onto the beach of the Pacific Ocean uh, in Washington, and to think, wow, you know, now this is a whole nother ocean on the other side of the country. A country that is flanked on one side by the Atlantic and then 3,000 something miles away, the Pacific. You know, uh, Depending, I guess 3,000 between 3,000 and 4,000 maybe, depending on whether you're what route you take. But um, it was unexpectedly uh, a delight to see the Pacific Ocean. I saw it more than once. I saw uh, uh, the the just this deserted beach where people were driving their cars on the beach, and it was really fun. And this, like, I guess it's sort of a resort town, but it's definitely not the season right now, and that's also strange because here in the southeast, at least on the coast here, it's late April and it's practically swimming weather, but very different on the other corner of the country. Um, so I ended up just making a loop around the peninsula, the western Washington peninsula, and I didn't really mess with Seattle that much. I mean, I flew in and flew out from Seattle, and on my last night, I stayed in Seattle just to be close to the airport. But maybe I missed out, on something. But my impression was that Seattle was going to be a pain in the neck. That everything was going to be way too expensive, and things would be run down, and there'd be just like the horror shows that they treat you with, uh, you know, when they show you what, especially certain urban areas that once were great, once were iconic, once it was once the place to be, and now it's just sadly run down for a whole variety of reasons. Many of them having to do with ridiculous far left politics. Well, I'm sure that's not the whole of it, but that's a lot of it. Is the impression that I have. Just ruining a lot of these cities that were always liberal. I mean, Seattle was always or has been liberal. Portland has been liberal. San Francisco has been liberal, but those cities were once places where you wanted to go and hang out and see stuff. And now it just seems like most of these cities and others, but those three in particular seem to be just in sad decline. While I was in Washington, I watched the movie Singles again. It's not that it's a great movie or anything, but just to get reacquainted with what all the hype was about when Seattle was the shit, you know, when it was when grunge music was where it was at, and so this was about a movie about cool, attractive young people and their foibles, which is kind of annoying, but it was also kind of funny. It's a pretty harmless movie, but that's definitely not the vibe around Seattle anymore, and sad. That's sad. Um, anyway, but and this is where I think things get a bit more self-indulgent. I've I'm at this stage right now where I'm almost of two minds. I'm almost schizophrenic at this point. Not literally schizophrenic, not medically. I don't fit the medical definition of schizophrenic, but schizophrenic in the sense of being of two minds. Uh, One mind is, it's late in life. Uh, you know, it's time to sprint to the finish line. It's time to go for the gusto. It's time to give it my all. Um, you know, when I say it's late in life, it's I'm not saying I'm that old. I'm just saying I'm pretty old. I'm definitely older than I am young. So I'm on the older side of middle age right now. And so, you know, some days I'm very motivated to write. And with my Substack page, I'm putting out a lot of material. I'm putting out a lot of content, as we call it these days, which is a word I dislike like similar to a lot of other people. I don't find it a very adequate word, but anyway, I'm writing a lot, and I'm working on a new novel, and I've got my my latest novel that I published with Terror House and everything and so on. So it's just sort of like okay, buddy, uh, this is me talking to myself. Okay, man, okay, old man, this is it. You got to grab the gusto right now. This is what you were put here to do. This is your mission in life. So so you know, right, and as long as you've still got things to say, and I know that I do, keep writing. So that's the one mind that I'm of. But the other mind that I'm of is just feeling quite a bit more discouraged, and I'm just being honest now about this. Um, I think um, you know one kind of has hopes that things would work out better. Things would work out. Uh, I don't know that you would gain a greater following. That you would. I mean, at one time, I felt like I was on course to. I mean, I've never felt like I needed to be a bestseller or anything like that. Um, but I thought I was on course to be slightly less obscure than than I'm proving to be. And the last few years, in addition to being sobering in so many other ways, just look at the state of the world. But just in a personal sense, the last few years have been sobering for me, uh, career wise, aspiration wise. Just because I have to be honest, I'm disappointed uh, with with where I'm at. Um, in some ways. Now, last night, gosh, it was just last night. The last day has been just a whirlwind. It's it's really been my traveling schedule was really quite ridiculous because uh, I don't know if anybody's interested in this, but like I said, I'm being self-indulgent here, so 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 you can indulge me or again you can watch something else. No big deal if that's what you would prefer. But but I the deal that I found, the best travel deal, the most economical travel deal was uh, I found a nonstop flight from Atlanta to Seattle, but it 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 left on uh, early Monday morning, 7 a.m. Monday morning. So I had to. So I was just hanging around the Atlanta airport on Sunday uh, in the wee hours, and and that was just punishing. And then got on the flight, and then got, it was like a 4.5 hour flight or so, 4.5 5 hour flight, but it was fine. Uh, Except that I was just beat to hell. And so it took. I was just for most of the first day that I was there, I was just way too tired to do much of anything. I ended up sleeping most of that day, and then coming home, uh, which was last night. Um, I I had this deal where I hopped a flight at 8 something, uh, at 8:30, I think it was 8:30, 8:45 to Las Vegas, and then got on a connecting flight in Las Vegas that left Vegas at around 1 in the morning Vegas time, and got arrived in Atlanta with a time difference at around 7:30. So it was like a 3.5 hour flight, but with a time change, it was the I was back on Eastern time again. But it was an awful flight. It was awful. It was just. I mean, I guess when I say it was awful, I mean it could have been worse. Um, but there was a steady degree of turbulence, and I hate turbulence. I hate turbulence. Um, and most of the flights that I've been on haven't been like this one. There's always a little bit. There's a little rumble here and there. Um, you know, and sometimes you get there's like a big suddenly. You hit a pocket and it's like being suddenly being on a roller coaster for a second, and it's really just like this sudden violent jerk, and that's not any fun. I've experienced that either. Last night wasn't like that, but it was like just like like shaking, shaky, and then the pilot would put on the uh, seat belts, return to your seat, fasten your seat belts thing, and and then the shaking would stop after a little bit, and you think it's over, and then it would start up again, and the pilot would put the thing back on. I mean, we must have been going through weather last night. There must have been some weather over a significant part of the country, because it's a long flight from Vegas to Atlanta. That's a long distance, and for most of that distance, there was some degree of turbulence. And again, it wasn't like the it wasn't like the totally awful turbulence that makes you feel like you're about to die, but it was unnerving, and so I had my I had my rosary beads out. I was saying lots of Hail Marys and Our Fathers, and just sort of um, uh, and not sleeping at all. And the thing is, the guy next to me, uh, actually, there was a seat between us, so I was fortunate in that respect. I at least it wasn't totally jam packed on my row. There were three seats, and the middle seat was unoccupied, so that gave me a little more leg room. But the guy on the window seat, he just slept right through right through everything. I heard him lightly snoring, through all of the jerks and jumps and through all of it. And after we landed, I said, "Man, I envy you so much for being able to sleep through all of that." But so I was up all night, and then I had to drive all the way from Atlanta to my home here in Savannah, uh, and from the Atlanta airport. Had all these misadventures at the airport. First, well, I don't want to go into. I think I'm already being kind of boring with the degree of detail I'm giving here. I couldn't find my car. I thought somebody had stolen my car because I remembered leaving my car in this particular section, and I went to that section and it wasn't there. So for like 15, 20 minutes, I was walking around, circling around the parking lot on no sleep, Um, you know, just feeling like bawling my eyes out. Just almost, just like what in the hell? Yeah, I was thinking, did those bastards tow my car for some reason, or did somebody steal it? I ended up thinking somebody must have stolen my car. Somebody must have hot wired it. Found their way in and hot wired it, and then just took off with it. You know, it's not that snazzy. I don't know why they would choose my car over some of the. I mean, there were some Mercedes and BMWs parked in that lot, but that was what I thought was the truth. And then I found out I was in the wrong parking lot because the Atlanta airport is just massive, labyrinthine, and you know. Um, so so then I found my way to the correct parking lot, and then I had to drive all the way back and on no sleep, and I almost fell asleep at the wheel. Um, and I did pull over and catch a few Z's, but I'm still going on like maybe 15, 20 minutes of total sleep for all of last night. Um, just sort of sticking it out here till the evening, uh, so that I'll be back adjusted to the hours. When I'm tired, when I'm exhausted, uh, uh, it doesn't. It's not a mood enhancer, and so this is just to say, my mind went to some has been to some dark places, uh, and I have thought about just well, I've thought about writing out my twilight, just doing something radically different to write out my twilight years, because I don't want to just uh, I don't want to just coast until I have plots. I don't I don't feel like doing that. That sounds like a drag and a half. Um, so I've had these radical notions of switching things up, um, trying something new, and I'm not going to be any more specific about it than that. I think I've maybe talked about some of my harebrained notions elsewhere. I think, um, but yeah. So it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I mean, it is the best of times, and it is the worst of times. I'll say that right now for me. Uh, the trip was wonderful. On the other hand, it was sort of like, why am I doing this? Like, okay, yeah, for kicks, for fun. It's neat to see. It's neat to travel. It's neat to see part of the country and so forth. But I also sort of thinking to myself, what am I rewarding myself for? What did you know, what have I done that I deserve to 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 treat myself to this kind of this kind of trip? And you know it wasn't so much being alone, because I really do like traveling alone. Believe me, there are the upsides to traveling alone, to me, so outweigh the downsides, or so outweigh the upsides of traveling with others. I so much prefer uh, being a solo traveler. The one thing about it is you kind of just feel your your sense of isolation is magnified. You already have a sense of isolation. You already kind of feel like you're Um, I don't know, disconnected. Uh, um, and when you're doing something like this, like travel is usually something people do with other people. Whether it's a guy's trip, whether it's a family trip, whether it's a trip you make with your sweetheart or your husband or wife. Uh, that's the typical model, and I'm telling you that I don't mind. um, I don't mind um, deviating from the typical model because in my experience, the typical model has got a ton of downsides. If you want to do something and the people you're with don't want to do it, uh, having to compromise, having to, I don't know, there's just it's you can get on each other's nerves, you can get under each other's skin really easily. It can be really fun, you know. It can be really bonding, and it also can be really like, man, uh, this is no fun at all. And when it's just you, you don't have to please anybody but yourself. It's your time. You set your own schedule, and I really do prefer that. But like I said, the one downside of it is that you're just you feel hyper isolated, and it's a cumulative effect. I think it's like this feeling like, I first of all, what have I done to reward myself with this? Like I already said, and then there's also, like, this feeling of you're not uh, there's this feeling of hyper isolation that can be bad for the spirit. There's an exhilaration to being alone, and uh, there's also a loneliness to it. So anyway, uh, so that's where I'm at right now, and I just thought I would you express my feelings, uh, as honestly as possible. Um, Maybe some of you were thinking, "So how was your trip?" And so this is sort of my wrap up of my trip. Most of you are probably, you know not thinking, "How was your trip?" Most of you probably are don't really care, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but anyway, I felt like just checking in, uh, and letting it be known, this is where I'm at right now. So there you have it.